No. Hello, everybody. All right. Sorry, kind of a little bit of get that kind of leveled where I want it. There we go. Hello there, everybody. How's everyone doing out there? Sorry, kind of. So going forward, we do have a new schedule. That's gonna be happening. Whoa, what am I doing? Let me try to be a good host here and intro the show. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just, Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening whenever you're watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, politics, and current events every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. Which, as I said at the top, we're going to have a little bit of a scheduling change. So, going forward, after today, barring anything happening, going forward, 6:30 is when the show will start, and about 10 o'clock is when the show will end. So we're going to kind of have a little bit of try to have a tighter show here in terms of its time and whatnot. But either way, I'm still happy about it. Anyway, how's everybody's weekend going, or how's everyone's week going? It is it is currently Monday, December 12th, 2022. Another winter day here in Colorado, getting a bit colder. But yeah. Like I said, all right. So today, this is I just noticed that didn't update. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm gonna change something really quickly. But anyway, my point I was going to make was not a lot happened over the weekend. If normally I'm kind of used to a little bit more things going on. But what is that? That's not what I wanted. Oh, I know what that is. 1 second. Sorry, just doing some last minute. If you don't know, all of your favorite streamers always end up having to do like a bunch of last minute gobbledygook almost all the time. There we go. So, I said at the top, so if you clicked on this video, you probably saw my immediate question, which is about Elon Musk's whole woke nonsense. This is what I want. This is a message I send, a question I send out into the ether of the internet. Somebody, and this is the challenge I'm putting out, somebody, anybody, I don't care who it is, somebody, please come on this show and definitively explain to me what in the fuck woke is, because I'm getting personally really tired of it just being things people don't like. That's like my big thing right now, is I'm getting really frustrated by like it just becoming things people don't like, which is kind of nothing. It's kind of just a catch-all phrase as far as I can tell. But if you think you know if you think you know down to the T what being woke, what wokeism is, I implore you to go to email this email address above my head. Let me know that you are the intellectual I'm looking for, and let's have a fun little chat. But all that aside, oh yeah, let me show the tweet really quickly so we understand what we're working with. The woke mind virus is either defeated or nothing else matters. So I want to know, what is he talking about here? And what is anybody talking about when they talk about this stuff? Because every time it's always a new definition. It's always, a new thing. And I find it really tiring. So that's a message out to anybody watching. I want answers. All right. I want answers. So setting that aside, we have, in terms of stories today, it's actually going to be pretty light. It mostly it's going to be. So we're going to start out reading a finance article from Politico about the kind of Fed's response to inflation and kind of take a look at that. Then I want to take a look at Marjorie Taylor Greene's little speech thing. I've seen the headlines. I guess she gave a speech over the weekend and undemocratic party issues. All right, we got somebody already throwing down. Then gonna look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and kind of her little speech. I've seen the headlines. I've seen other people vaguely reacting to it. I have not actually seen the full video. I found video of it, so I want to see from her own words what this is. Then pretty much somebody linked me when I got off stream last Thursday. Twitter Files episode 2 dropped, and the poor television viewer watcher I am, I didn't catch episode 2. I didn't catch episode 3. I didn't catch episode 4. And I was dumbstruck to believe that there was episode 5, apparently. So I want to go over those, kind of read through, kind of get caught up on that, and just kind of, I hear a lot about, oh my God, it's such a scandal. And so far, out of the one that I'm aware of, it was not much of a scandal. So kind of wanted to get into that next. But let's see. Let me read this really quickly. Wokeism is reactionary, undemocratic party issues. I'd say that's pretty accurate. That sounds about as accurate as a reading as I've ever heard. As I said earlier, it always just kind of feels like a catch-all phrase. So we'll see if we'll see if somebody with the type of politics, who likes to throw on wokeism and stuff, has some kind of answer for us. I'm not super confident, but anyway, it's cold out. Let's get started with the Fed treating us normal people with the icy love that only cold weather can bring us. I don't know. I tried to tie that together. Don't look at me. I'm not the best at transitions. Anyway, so the asset bubble that's quietly popping. Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and other Fed policy makers meet this week to raise borrowing costs again in a fight against the highest inflation in 4 decades that they're not close to winning. So everyone has heard about all of the inflation, stuff and all of the rhetoric surrounding that. Unfortunately, for basically every normal person, the only solution that the Biden administration and his Federal Reserve leaders are willing to engage in is sadly playing around with what am I thinking? With lending percentages, I can't think of the word right now. I'm always terrible at what's it called? With what am I thinking? The percentage in which people must pay to borrow money. I can't think of the word. Thank you. Interest rates. Thank you. I've always been bad at terminology. I don't know why. What's funny is English was the class I was good at, and I'm still dog shit when it comes to remembering vocabulary. Anyway, let's get reading. The crypto market has melted down. Home prices in major markets are dropping. Investors in stocks and bonds are suffering. It's almost like one of those is the one I actually feel sympathy for, and that could be the best case scenario for Fed Chair Jerome Powell. After months of steep hikes in the interest rates, the Fed is facing a surprising reality. The damage to financial markets and the broader economy has been relatively modest. The inflation is showing signs of easing. Bubbles in both the stock market and home prices are shrinking from the historic surge, but only gradually. Crypto's implosion has barely caused a ripple, and beyond Wall Street, consumer spending has held up. Factory orders are rising, and the job market is consistently beating expectations. So as much as everyone's kind of catastrophized, I think, a lot of the economy under Biden, it hasn't been, at least from I never turned this on. Hey, look at me. It hasn't been, I think, nearly as catastrophic as, well, Obviously, the right wing wants to make everything seem a bit catastrophic under Biden, but overall, the economy hasn't changed that much. Biden has, for the most part, done what he kind of promised to do, which was nothing's going to fundamentally change and things are going to kind of run the same way they always have run. Now, as a leftist, I don't find that to be preferable or, even enough to even begin to address our actual systemic economic issues. But in terms of keeping the ball rolling, the ball has rolled in a pretty predictable fashion and rate. So, I guess credit where credit is due, I suppose. If keeping the neoliberal machine running and not really doing anything to address, systemic inequality, then I guess, the ball kept rolling. Powell and other Fed policymakers. Nope, I read. No, wait, I didn't read that. Powell and other policymakers meet this week to raise borrowing costs again in a fight against the highest inflation in 4 decades that they're not close to winning. But the absence of serious strains in the financial system so far has bolstered Biden's hopes that any recession might be mild or avoided altogether. If the Fed can tame inflation without crashing the economy, achieving the so-called soft landing that has eluded the central banks so often in the past, I wonder why, it would defy the warnings of Wall Street CEOs and most economists. The good news about the pricking of those bubbles is it hasn't led to an epic collapse in the broader market. Said Kevin Gordon, Senior Investment Research Manager at Charles Schwab, I've seen that name before, who pointed to drops in more speculative investments like crypto and small stocks. But, quote, definitely more air has to come out. To be certain, the risks for the economy are still heavily weighted on the downside, as Wall Street executives like JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon warned last week inflation is eroding everything. Which, it's not shocking that, Jamie Dimon and Wall Street execs would love for, quite frankly, the inflation to kind of keep becoming a talking point in the media, because as much as kind of what I'm kind of seeing here, and I don't have the best economic background, but what I'm mostly seeing here is Wall Street executives wanting to keep pressure high for policymakers and for the American people in an attempt to basically keep everybody in this worry state, so that they're willing to accept big companies raising their prices, hoarding a lot more extra money, even though technically their actual the money that a lot of these companies is making is perfectly fine. It's salvageable. Nobody's going solvent or anything like that. This is mostly just kind of a game to keep people nervous so that you can continue to bilk a little bit of extra money. Because once things go back to normal, because this is also the thing, once this whole inflation, at least from a political standpoint, moment passes, essentially the pressure of businesses don't get to make the argument of oh well, because inflation we had to raise our prices, even though they didn't actually have to do that. Their income in terms of sales has been, as we've seen, pretty steady. But if the inflation is high, you can justify raising your prices while cutting staff. So you're basically cutting down all of your costs to deliver the same product for a slightly higher price, and you don't have to justify it to consumers, essentially. So it's not shocking that they would love for the Biden administration to kind of keep pushing this inflation stuff and do things like raise the interest rates, because unfortunately, raising the interest rates is not going to affect them. What that affects primarily is going to be home borrowers, and I believe also, people who have credit cards and stuff. So, though, raising interest rates only affects really normal average Americans. It does not negatively affect banks who get their own preferential interest rates. The biggest danger in Powell's battle against spiking prices is that the interest rate increases take time to feed through the economic activity. That means the Fed's aggressive moves now could pack a much bigger punch next year as consumers whittle down their savings and take on more debt, which, unfortunately, we live in a debtor's economy, which is not good. Like, it's actually, none of those things are good. Like, having a debtor's economy, bad. Having people like wear down their savings, also bad. But, you know, this is sadly the only thing the Biden administration is willing to, you know, pretty much engage in to bring down, to address the inflation. It's not like, you know, they could private, you know, they could what's the word, they could publicize, is that the word? Either way, they could seize some of the private assets of some of these companies, but, you know, and make them public utilities. But, you know, of course, that's not really something that they're willing to do. And that's especially so if unemployment rises, as almost everyone expects, which it might. But again, if prices are high, if everything is high, except for wages that have never moved, and no matter how much inflation moves, is it a shocker that wages never seem to move ever? You know, when things are going good, wages don't go up. When things are going bad, wages drop. So it's kind of always this game of keeping working people on the same thin thread. Short thread, I should say. While companies were able to refinance their loans at much lower rates in the depths of the coronavirus pandemic, there could be a reckoning for them too, as some of those firms finally have to absorb much steeper debt costs. And it's not just a U.S. problem. Inflation is also soaring in countries throughout the globe, fed by supply chain snarls and Russia's war in Ukraine, while higher rates in the U.S. have especially slammed smaller economies, raising the possibility of a synchronized global recession. I don't know why I said that with that cadence. Yet a Biden administration official said the lack of market disruption in the U.S. is a good sign in that banks have healthy buffers of capital to deal with unexpected losses, capital that they most likely don't want to spend. That decreases the chances that financial tremors will tip the country into a downturn. Which, again, this is always from the perspective that we're not in a downturn already. It's not like the U.S. economy has been working for everybody as it is. Let's see. That's a dramatic contrast to the 2008 credit crisis, when homeowners were saddled with risky mortgages and financial institutions across the globe were exposed to junk assets containing those loans, leading to a deep recession. Not exactly the greatest framing. That's not exactly what happened, considering the corruption within the credit rating systems was pretty, guess the word, systemic, which led to a lot of companies packaging a lot of trash ass loans, dog shit loans, and then taking bets on them. And then when those failed, oh whoops, it's seems like all of our dog shit bets on this dog shit product that we created ended up bankrupting the entire world economy. Who could have seen that coming? Let's see. There's a path to get to slower growth without a lot of pain for households, and that is because labor markets and balance sheets still look pretty strong, said the official, who requested anonymity to speak more freely about the administration's views. We are not seeking the kind of dynamics that could cause some kind of downward spiral. Well, isn't that lovely? What is that? Oh. Did that just... Hello? My mouse seemed to... Hello? Okay, there we go. But we always have to caveat that you can never be fully confident in periods where you think the risks of potential shocks are high. The Fed fueled a massive run-up in financial asset prices last year, from stocks and houses to crypto, by slashing interest rates to zero and buying up trillions of dollars in bonds. Now, as the central bank cranks up rates at the fastest pace in decades to curb inflation, Americans are bracing for a recession. Amid the economic doom and gloom of spiking prices and rising interest rates, stocks have fallen nearly 18% this year. Home prices dropped 2.6% in the third quarter in the face of punishing jumps in mortgage rates. Even bonds have gotten clobbered, with one Bloomberg index down more than 11% in 2022. So obviously the Home prices dropping 2.6%. Oh my God. Good gravy, that's a long. Okay. I will read that afterwards. Oh my goodness. Stopping animal murder and torture. That's such a long message. I appreciate you being active. I will read that afterwards. Amid the economic doom and gloom. All right. So, yeah, like, with the home prices going down, also you have to realize that the people who have benefited the most from home prices going down has been these financial institutions buying them, gobbling them all up, and then putting them on the market as rentals or, like, you know, kind of flipping them. So it's also really just benefited the upper class once again. Part of the reason that hasn't led to worse consequences, layoffs in the tech industry being one notable exception, is precisely because those assets were starting from such a high point, said Alp Simsek, a professor at Yale School of Management. We're going back to normal levels, he said. He argued that the asset prices were fueled by more than just a speculative frenzy tied to a surge in cash in the economy. Cash that was only going towards, like, speculative individuals or people who are highly involved in the speculative market. That's going to be like people who trade stocks and do that sort of stuff, and hedge funds. They're the ones actually engaging in any of these nice interest rates being low and housing prices being low enough to take advantage of. Let's see. When we were in a recession, the economy needed high asset prices to recover faster. But once you recover it, you want to take away that boom. In theory, this works. In practice, when you bring asset prices up and down very quickly, there's a risk of something breaking down. What's fucking new? As usual, like, I hate a lot of this mainly because you're playing a lot of, like, games with the economy that only a small percentage of people actually are involved in, but the consequences of playing those games end up screwing over, like, millions of people who, you know, end up one day they're like housing taxes are super high, or you know they're like, they maybe they were paying like a certain minimum on their credit card and now that's doubled, and suddenly that's like another expense for them. So I mean, it's, let's see. Schwab's Gordon said American consumers have also been shielded by the strength of the labor market. When people are employed, they're less likely to be forced to sell their homes or other assets to make ends meet. Still, he noted the consumer savings have begun to dwindle. At the same time, credit card debt has surged. Definitely has. All of that to me suggests that there's a lot more stress under the surface. Yeah, there's a lot more stress for normal people. Like, those numbers will tell you that normal, average Americans are the ones who are feeling the stress. You know, like the majority of the country. Yeah, I think it's important. Meanwhile, the more the job market remains resilient, the higher the central bank may have to raise interest rates, particularly given recent data suggesting wage growth is accelerating even amid signs that inflation is cooling. So obviously we had that period where, I mean, quite frankly, a lot of people were using the moment of COVID and everything to gain, to they leverage that moment to get better wages. I was in that category. Whenever not that I ever left the workforce, but when moving jobs, it was a lot easier to argue, when businesses need people. I was like, well, you're gonna have to pay a little bit extra for me now. If you want people to work for you, it's gonna cost you a little bit extra now. There's a risk of complacency given the unexpectedly positive credit performance over the course of the pandemic. Acting comptroller of the currency, oh my goodness, Michael Hugh? No, I feel like it's Hugh. Who oversees national banks, told reporters Thursday, we need to remain vigilant. There's always a danger that firms in less regulated corners of the financial system have made risky investment moves that blow up and feed out to more central players, destabilizing the economy. But there are a few hints so far that such an event is in the offing, even as those precise dynamics play out within the world of crypto assets. Given how quickly and how dramatically circumstances have changed, things could be going much, much worse than they are. Catherine Judge, a professor at Columbia Law School, but I am not going to rest easy until we've had more time for the dramatic shift we've seen in the interest rate environment to really work its way through. So this, I kind of want to seize on this. So it's always dangerous that firms in less regulated corners of the financial system have made risky investment moves that blows up and feeds out to more central players, destabilizing the economy. So I want to kind of like stop on this specific paragraph for a second, because they're talking about risky investments, which a lot of companies do tend to engage in. But what is another like risky, I guess, a business investment, or should I say business move or business change? It would be a good example of this would be the rail companies that we just saw recently in the news, that slashed a lot of their workforce and now are not able to offer sick time to their railroad workers because it would require them to hire more people. That is a good example of businesses and business interests being in maximizing profit, the consequences be damned. Because we almost had a moment in this country where that rail strike could have destabilized this country's economy in a serious way. And unfortunately, our media and the Biden administration both did a exemplary job of blaming workers, of blaming normal people, of blaming the powerless in that dynamic. Instead, the true consequence, the arbiter of that possible destabilization would have always been those rail companies, 100%. Because at the end of the day, it was their decision to slash their employee base so that they can have the least amount of people working and maximize the amount of profit that they're pulling in per shipment, basically. And that's like one example of the economy being destabilized by one company or one industry's that's not highly regulated, one industry's actions that reverberate throughout the economy. And that's just railways. There are hundreds of these. There are hundreds, possibly thousands of these types of companies that could easily destabilize this country's economy just based on them playing around with their with their investment stock, playing around with their capital, playing around with the way they structure their companies. At the end of the day, the Fed is raising interest rates on normal people, but yet they're still worried about risky investments made by businesses. I don't think I'm crazy when I say that maybe those interest rates, maybe the punishment that you're going to put onto people in this country, instead of it going to normal people who have almost no power in our economy, why don't we put a little bit of that pressure on business owners for once? For once. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander, right? Like, who has more power in this economy? Because it's not people, it's not like Susan down the street who has like 2 credit cards and $3,000 of debt. It's not like your local Starbucks barista who makes $19 an hour, probably has like $1,000 worth of debt, has like a car they still need to pay for, has an apartment they probably have to split with multiple roommates. Like, these are the people who are affected. They're actively saying like, hey, we're really worried about like large companies, corporations, and businesses, fooling around with their assets and fucking over the economy. Yet they recognize that in that moment, but on the back end, they recognize it's going to be these companies that destabilize the economy. But up front, when it's time to take action, what do? They take it out on you, and they take it out on me. So, failed economic systems, unfortunately, as usual. In America, our system is designed to favor capital ownership. And I got news for you. Most people aren't capital owners. So why we're working so hard, bending over backwards for their interests, the much smaller group in the economy, it's nuts to me. But so keep in mind, when you owe a little bit extra on your credit card this month, when any of that stuff happens, this is why. Anyway, let me read this very large. Angela Merkel. I thought that the introduction of NATO ascension of Ukraine and Georgia discussed in 2008 was wrong. The countries did not have the necessary prerequisites for this, nor was it fully understood what the consequences of such a decision would have been, both with regard to Russia's actions against Georgia and Ukraine, as well as NATO and its rules of assistance. And the Minsk Agreement of 2014 was an attempt to give Ukraine time. Makes sense. I'm assuming this is her. Say the countries did not have process for this. Yeah, we probably should have just had them join NATO off rip, honestly, and given them that protection off the bat and just called it a day. But anyway, okay, so next up, I want to see what kind of what kind of sussy language that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been spouting. So over the weekend, I guess, when was this? I don't think I even have a date. Let's see if I can find a date. Is there a date to this? This got posted on the 12th, but I heard about this over the weekend. It doesn't matter. Either way, over the weekend, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congressional representative from Georgia, I would say went mask off, but there's really no mask for her to worry about slipping. Marjorie Taylor Greene, since her entrance into politics, has been and will probably always be a representation of the most toxic elements of American politics, and more specifically, the Republican Party's base, quite frankly. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a theocrat, is a fascist, and is one of, if not the, I actually think she might be the, at least aside from maybe McCarthy from California, the largest fundraiser in the Republican Party. As much as Republicans would like to pretend that, Ron DeSantis or Mitch McConnell or any of these much more ostensibly center-right Republicans are the true core of the Republican Party, it's not. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the consequence of decades of right-wing talk radio, decades of Fox News propaganda, and decades of reactionary politics. So Marjorie is a pure creation of the Republican Party. So let's take a look what she had to say about January 6th.
Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here.
Well, okay, let's go through one time before I.
That if Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed.
So, did you guys catch that? What's up? Did you guys catch that? Homegirl just said we would have won, which also. So let's do this step by step.
The next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here.
So Steve Bannon, known January 6th organizer, in terms of the whole speech and everything else. Also, I know he was like doing his little radio show, little war room thingamajig. But yeah, I'd say Steve Bannon had a little bit going there in the organizational field.
And I want to tell you something. If Steve
You really shouldn't be. I'm rather healthy, actually.
Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won.
Now, the big question one has to ask themselves is, what is winning exactly? So you have to ask yourself a lot when it comes to this. When she says winning, what is she talking about? You know, what were the, you know, when you look at videos, when you look at kind of the the break-in and everything else that was going on, you have to ask yourself kind of what's winning, what's the win state for these guys? And the win state was clearly holding the Capitol, not certifying the Democratic vote for Joe Biden, because they're all a bunch of sissy bitch boys, just like this person in chat. And taking over the country with through a fascist coup not backed by the military. Quite frankly, these guys wouldn't have lasted too much longer had the military got involved. But their win state was basically just take over the U.S. government, which we call that a coup. I don't know if people really know that's what that's called. It happens in other countries, and when it happens here, it's not any different. Just because you're right wing and a white Southerner and probably a neo Confederate, doesn't really change the fact that your goal is to take over the U.S. government by force and introduce a non-democratically elected leader. So let's just be clear. That's the thing that she says. If she had planned it, they would have been able to succeed in that goal.
Not to mention, it would have been armed.
So I find it kind of interesting that the crowd at first kind of does the wow, and then kind of ends up not really being too bothered by it. A little bit of cheers and shit, a little bit of ooh, that's pretty cool. So I mean, I don't really, the whole and being armed thing. First of all, January 6ers were armed. You can kind of see that in the video and such. But yeah, this is, I said it at the top before we even watched it. She, you can say that it was kind of a mask off moment, but it's really not. Hopefully going forward, the more liberal establishment, or at least the more centrist folks in not just the Democratic Party, but in the country, kind of see this for what this is, which is really just a naked admission of a desire to claim power and take over the country. That's really all it is. That's really all this ends up being. So, unfortunately, not exactly the, what's the word? Not exactly the mask off moment. I think, I think it's pretty obvious. She's a fascist. She knows what she's doing, and she knows what she's about, which is about undemocratic rule. So, that wasn't as bad. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not as bad as I thought it was. I mean, quite frankly, it's one of those cases where it's well, is it bad that she said it? Yeah. Is anybody surprised? Not really. But anyway, so over the course of the weekend, we got a few more episodes of the Twitter files drop. So I kind of want to get a little bit of a refresher. Let's get some perspective here. And then we're going to I want to read through part 2. I want to kind of read through as much as I can. I've got the other ones up. So let's just dive right in. I'm curious, since this has been such a scandal.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday.
Oh, I should say, this is Breaking Points, a show made up of a ostensibly progressive, and a conservative. So, if you're not aware of what Breaking Points is, it's a okay show. I don't watch anymore. Just I have my issues with them. But anyway.
Today, we have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed, we do. Nice to be back in the
Very
studio.
nice.
We had a wonderful time on the road, though. Thank you to New York and Boston and everybody who came out. It was great. And we'll be posting some of those clips. So whether you're premium, that's already the full thing live from Boston, but we're going to post some of the clips later on as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Okay, in the show today, we got a whole bunch of Twitter stuff, new threads that came out, new Elon Musk tweets, new media reaction. We also have something that is just breaking really this morning. Apparently, Dave Chappelle brought Elon onto stage in San Francisco. It didn't go all that well. We have some exclusive video. Well, it's not exclusive to us, but some interesting video from inside the room. So we'll show you that. We also have some updates on that situation with the railroad workers. There is still a chance for Joe Biden to sign an executive order to give these workers the paid sick day.
Okay,
he had been turned away and actually detained.
More. Let's put it up there on the screen. What was this? Is the Free Press. We wanted to start and focus two drops.
5 shows to promote anymore
No,
for the
nothing.
moment,
Okay.
for the
I don't
time
have to say it
being.
anymore. It's nice.
So we'll get right into what's going on with Twitter.
Okay, let's start with the Twitter files. So the latest that we have here were two drops since Thursday, both from Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, who works currently with Barry Weiss's The Free Press. We wanted to start and focus really in on the Matt Taibbi thread, and in particular, what I believe to be the most significant story that's come out really of the Twitter files so far. Let's put it up there on the screen.
Hit me with it.
What was essentially revealed is that Yoel Roth, the former head of Trust and Safety, indicated in screenshots from Slack messages that he was having weekly confabs with federal law enforcement agencies,
Makes sense.
specifically the FBI, the DHS, and the Department of Justice. And in at least one known instance, let's put A4 up on the screen there, guys. The next one. What's very important is that, and in this one instance, we know that the FBI was actually sending reports about a pair of tweets to Twitter, specifically asking for them to be taken down. Now, the tweets in question, they certainly were bullshit. I mean, they were about some fake mail-in ballot claims from the 2020 election. However, and I think that this underscores the point, it is not the job of the FBI actually to police misinformation on Twitter or elsewhere, and they were clearly flagging.
Well, that's true. It is Twitter's job to do that, though, and the DHS and the FBI saying, "Hey, your platform is hosting disinformation and misinformation. You should get that in line because we're the FBI and the DHS, and that's kind of how this works."
Tweets in a well-established operation, Crystal, with weekly meetings with Yoel Roth and with the head of Twitter, CEOs, and others that indicate then a pattern of trying to prepare the environment to get them to take down anything that they wanted. Now, remember also, this fits very neatly with the Mark Zuckerberg comments on Joe Rogan, in which he said that, well, you know, the FBI came to us. They told us some sort of like hack operation was coming. We thought that's what the Hunter Biden story was. We waited a couple of days. And then frankly, almost in an even more pernicious way, they just simply made it impossible to find on their platform while you could still technically click the link. They didn't go as far as Twitter. But when you put, I think, those two things together, look, did we know it? Yeah, we knew it. But to see it in stark writing, weekly messages in which he...
Okay, so let me recap because episode 1, if I don't know if how many people are aware. So episode 1, the Hunter Biden leaks, as they're kind of built up to be, come out. The information that we gained from that was essentially there were links, photos, and accounts that were promoting and kind of what's the word? Posting nudes, or again, links to nudes, and a lot of other things that could be what's the word? Determined to be revenge porn of Hunter Biden. The Biden campaign, it's also, let's remember, this isn't the government asking this. This is a private citizen. The Biden campaign requested that tweets that involve those aspects be taken down. They were very specific in those. So, you know, I don't really see how links to websites or pages that host the nudes is really at the end of the day, that goes against Twitter's TOS. So naturally, it was mostly the Biden campaign asking them to, what's the word I'm looking for? Enforce their own TOS, which nothing wrong with that. And then the other aspect of it was also, and Matt Taibbi made a point of this, but every conservative has decided that they're gonna kind of memory hole this part. But the Trump campaign did the exact same thing with certain stories pertaining to their interests. So this has been built up a lot as something nefarious. It's not really. It's quite mundane. It's private citizens. The only difference is the Trump campaign, or at least the Trump White House, part of the government. So, just saying.
Even alludes to his quote, like secret meetings, like very special meetings, almost as if it's a joke. Actually, it's not a joke, and basically confirms something that we all knew, but now we have the proof right there in the pudding. And look, I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway from the Twitter files yet.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, he jokes about he's like, oh, I'm in favor of calendar transparency, but he doesn't want to put on his calendar literally every week, meeting with the FBI again for the 100th time.
Right.
So that's not really weird, especially for a platform like Twitter, which mostly deals with communication across the internet. That's not really weird or sussy. The government has a interest in investigating and in putting pressure on companies that host dangerous material, or more specifically, misinformation and disinformation. So, I don't really see the how that's really a big deal. This really only is a scandal, I think, if you have a absolutist view of free speech, which I don't. But I guess if you do, then that would be really bad. I don't really see it as being much of a problem. Again, they're not forcing them. It is mostly requests and bringing forth evidence of like TOS policies that have been broken on their platform. So
I really want you all, however you feel about these Twitter files, however you feel about Elon Musk, however you feel about Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or Donald Trump or the deep state or any of this, I really want you to put aside your sort of ideological inclinations and imagine it's whatever president or whatever party you hate the most, who's in power. And the nefarious connection between the FBI and these social media companies that...
So understand. So I don't like this framing off the bat. Nefarious. They were requesting nudes not be circulated on their platform. That's what was happening with the Biden campaign. In terms of the FBI and the DHS, they do they do need to keep an eye on these media websites, because it's been shown that people get radicalized through these media corporations, through these social media companies and their platforms. So it is within their interest to keep an eye on that stuff.
Have so much power, and there is,
like, unless you want Twitter to turn into 4chan, which I don't know how familiar Crystal is with 4chan, but something tells me they're not very interested in FBI suggestions, which makes it the hellscape that it is.
Is no transparency around how any of this is done. This is the first real, like, sort of real-time glimpse we've gotten into how all of these things ultimately operate. So, there's been a lot of debate about, like, oh, well, they've shown a lot of right-wing examples, not about a lot of left-wing examples. To me, it really doesn't matter which...
It does. So it does, because this is the problem. Elon Musk is not releasing all the information he has. All the information that we've seen and that they're talking about in at least the first episode of the Twitter files. All of that information has been curated by Musk and by the people that he has allowed to report on it. So when we talk about transparency, there is no transparency in any of these drops. These drops are as transparent as the like are as nefarious as the content of them that she's claiming. Like there's nothing about these drops that are transparent whatsoever. They've already said they're being curated. So
ideological inclination is being censored. What matters is that this
also, is it curious that it's more right wingers? Like honestly, if you don't think Elon Musk is specifically picking more right wing examples over left wing examples, I'm sorry, I don't. It'd be one thing if he released everything on like, I don't know, like whatever website people release them, whatever the was WikiLeaks. Yeah, if everything, all of it, 100% of it was released onto a site like WikiLeaks or somewhere that there wasn't any, it was just take all the information, I don't have any interest in it, that'd be one thing. We'd be having a different conversation. But that's not what's happened here. What's happened is it's been curated and it's been specifically, and it's been reported on in a very specific way by people chosen to report on it that way. And there were agreements. Matt Taibbi already said that he did have to agree to certain things before Musk would show him any of this and allow him to post any of it. So there's also that. Do we know what that agreement was? You tell me. Do you know? Could it possibly be that right wing Elon Musk just so happens to only post like all right wing accounts and right wing evidence of censorship? Is that a surprise? I mean, come on.
power exists. It's wholly unchecked, and it can be wielded against anyone, any idea, any organization at any time.
It is a private. Is it a private?
And that's the thing, as
a private
Americans,
platform?
regardless of what your ideology is, that's the thing that you should be deeply, deeply concerned about.
Yeah, and then also remember, I mean, I think what really underscores this is to take it out of the Twitter files themselves and look at the most recent example, the story that Ken Klippenstein broke here on our show about the truth cops, about the Department of Homeland Security flagging things as misinformation that include the withdrawal from Afghanistan as quote unquote misinformation.
Yeah, if you're spreading misinformation about the withdrawal, then yes, that would be misinformation.
Look, and I also, here's another Twitter file I'm waiting for. Okay, deplatforming the president, I get it. I think it was very important. I want to know a lot about COVID, about the initial lab leak blocks that were happening. Who flagged that?
So here's the problem. Sauger's making it seem, and this is the big thing. Sauger is making it seem that by the nature of them censoring misinformation, that information must itself be worthy or be true. Like be worthy of like the evidence or worthy of any of its value. Like, no, dude, like all of this is conspiracy, all of this is nonsense, but you want nonsense to be treated as actual fact, as actual as truth. You want to treat all of it as nebulous speech, even though when you do that, people can always tell one more lie. People can always make up one more thing, fabricate one more fact. But there's only so many facts you can actually wield. That's why misinformation on the internet needs to be tampered down in this kind of way. Like you can't treat them the same, because lies will always overpower them unless you put some deference towards truth, towards facts, not towards all this. Well, I want to hear about the lab leak conspiracy. All right, then go somewhere to find out. Go to 4chan, go to wherever you go to get your conspiracies. But as the largest private platform for social communication and social media, it doesn't need a place on here. You can, they always want to play this game of like today's conspiracy theory is tomorrow's headline, which is not anywhere near true. You've got a couple really good examples of that, but for like, how many conspiracy theories do you hear at the dinner table from some of your right-wing family members, and how many of them make sense? I'm sorry, but this is equalizing way too many things that aren't equal.
what the ongoing meetings were between Dr. Fauci, the CDC, and others. Also turns out that Fauci's daughter actually worked for Twitter at a time during the pandemic. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't actually know that. Would have been an interesting act of journalism.
Was it during?
For somebody to flag that for us. We only know it
Was
because
she there? Wait. You didn't say she was there when the pandemic was happening. You said worked there at some point. No, go back. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm...
between Dr. Fauci, the CDC, and others. Also turns out that Fauci's daughter actually worked for Twitter at a time during the pandemic. Oh, that's interesting.
Would have
been an interesting act of journalism for somebody to flag that for us. We only know it because he was deposed.
So Twitter was working closely with Fauci to stop COVID misinformation, which would lead to the deaths of millions, and did lead to the deaths of millions. How many people didn't take the vaccine? How many people were like fucking around thinking they could take hydroxychloroquine? Like, these things have consequences. We can't play this game of like, anyway, let's just keep going. It's ridiculous.
In a lawsuit. So, that's actually, there's a lot happening here. And then furthermore, from the misinformation piece that Ken Klippenstein put out, it shows you also that they were flagging things which were directly bad politically for the Biden administration.
Right.
Like not just Afghanistan, but...
they also flagged things that were bad. Okay. We already found that. We already learned that the Trump administration, the government, by the way, was also requesting for things to be taken down, things to be flagged. This was not a one-sided campaign.
Any sort of, not even questioning on the election, on Biden and criticism of him himself, flagging that to these social media companies. And we know in this instance that Twitter was, in some cases, flagging and taking things down on behalf of the DOJ and the FBI. I also think a lot of this, Crystal, stems back to the war on terror. And I think all of us have to be honest, me specifically.
Oh, I hate this because it always comes back to trying to like launder it through a war on terror. What's the word? Hysteria. The war on terror was a abject failure. Like we all recognize that, but I am already so sick of hearing right-wingers specifically talk about how the war on terror and the tactics that we used against terrorists abroad are suddenly going to be used against American citizens and all this censorship and all that. Like, guys, that's not what happens. You say untrue bullshit on Twitter, they're going to they're going to de-emphasize you in the algorithm because you're just spreading misinformation, especially when you're spreading misinformation that goes against terms of service. This isn't hard at the end of the day. Also, we already learned that, again, they keep making it about like Biden. You don't think that the Trump White House did this? Fun fact, we know for a fact that they did. They also had requests for things be taken down, which were also, abided by. So let's not,
Great point.
Look, I mean, I think a lot of us were okay with the idea that the FBI was working deeply with Twitter to like take down ISIS, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's a good thing." We're taking down these
because
tweets.
ISIS is
well,
bad.
It started to get real sketchy in 2016, 2017, when we were straight up going after American citizens, and the FBI was basically working with them to essentially entrap them and put them in prison. Most people,
which is bad. Are we equalizing and trapping like citizens for suspected ISIS ties with you just getting your tweet deleted? Is that really the level of like delusion we're working with here? Like, it's a tweet. Chill your ass out. Twitter isn't real life. Like, holy shit.
People were fine with that, but people like Glenn and many other civil libertarians were like, you don't understand the apparatus which is being built here. And I think many of us need to admit that what happened there, while it seemed comfortable, those people and the illegal infrastructure that was set up.
Also, the information and all the misinfo I know I'm pausing a lot, I'm really sorry, but also the misinformation that they're even referencing in any of like the like nonsense conspiracy theories, you can go on the internet and find that stuff. They just don't want it on Twitter. You like that's it. That like you're complaining because you can't buy a product, because you can't buy fucking hockey sticks in Macy's. They don't sell that here. Like, You don't have a right to anything on whatever site. I don't get to go to the Nike website and bitch and moan because they don't have fucking, I don't know, what does Nike not do? They do clothes. What's not clothes? They don't fucking do, fuck, I don't know. Shit, do they sell scissors? They don't fucking sell, they don't manufacture scissors or some shit. Like you can go get your misinfo somewhere else. You don't have a right for it to be on any single platform. That's not how this works. They're private platforms. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's not the town square. Sorry, it's just not. It's not a public space.
Up against them, that has now come to be expanded in a way that nobody predicted.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people, and I will include myself in this, who felt very uncomfortable with that power that was being claimed by the executive branch under the Bush administration, and felt a lot more comfy with it under Obama, because I liked him better, and so I felt like, oh, well, this is.
Well, Crystal, you don't need to. You don't need to play the game of dumb liberal. It's fine. Like, yes, that was stupid. You should have recognized that from the start. Like,
isn't as bad, and you sort of forget that they still retained those powers. I mean, think about Obama and the drone strike list and all of those things. So this really isn't a partisan story, because every president that we have had has basically claimed these powers and used them for their own benefit. So again, to use another sort of like counter example, right? These examples, yes, they focus on censorship predominantly of right-wing accounts, which again, I think you should care about, because you should know that this power can be wielded against anyone at any time.
Yeah, it's okay.
But imagine what Trump could have done with these sorts of powers during the George Floyd protests and riots. And we know that there was, and this is again reporting from Ken Klippenstein.
You don't think they tried? I'm sorry. If Crystal Ball does not think that the Trump administration was not requesting for misinformation about the George Floyd incident to be, what's the word? To be either prioritized or be allowed to spread on their platform unabated. If you don't think the Trump administration wasn't actively trying to do that, I'm sorry, I don't know where you've been the last couple of years. There is no universe where Trump was not asking Twitter, hey, can we keep up the George Floyd misinfo? And fun fact, if that's true, if I'm, Elon's not going to release those communications, obviously. But it's very obvious that Twitter did show deference to facts to a degree when they were censoring some of this content. So you don't think that wasn't happening? That hasn't been happening through that didn't happen through all of Trump's admin? Like, obviously it was. Like the idea that they're like, oh well, like we don't, he didn't do it. Like, of course he did. And guess what? It didn't get censored because there was no factual basis to it.
We know there was an effort within the deep state to sort of track and surveil
the deep state.
Antifa activists. There were some takedowns of those accounts on Twitter as
under
well. So
the
again,
Trump administration,
you don't find
like he definitely did. Like he definitely engaged in this. Like, yeah, no shit.
Examples of libs of TikTok or whatever compelling. Think about these powers being used by someone like Donald Trump, that, is untrustworthy in terms of his sort of authoritarian tendencies, and what someone with those inclinations could also do against their own ideological foes. Some of the reporting suggests that, again, this sort of like deep state apparatus, who they're going to go after, who they're going to track, who they're going to.
I hate the phrase deep state. I just want to say that now. I fucking hate the phrase deep state.
Surveil, who they're going to consider enemies. Some of that started to be set up under Trump, and then the Biden administration takes it and turns it towards the people that they see as political adversaries. That's why I think it's so important to take the ideology.
Remember, the Biden campaign was asking for nudes to not be circulated. That's the censorship that they have a problem with. And those were the tweets and the content that they wanted censored and removed. Nudes. That's what this is all about.
out of this and recognize that this sort of power, total lack of transparency, it really is an authoritarian type of system. And this evil collaboration between the government and these social media tech companies that have so much power in terms of our entire democratic infrastructure, everybody should be really troubled by this part. And I do think that this is, you know, the most important piece that we've seen come out of it. It is confirming what the little glimpses that we've already gotten of the way that this collaboration happens. We already know that these...
Here's the problem. And here's the problem. She's saying that through the glimpses that we've seen, it has created a problem. Would you like to know what the problem it has created, as far as the American public is aware of? Go online, go on Twitter, go really anywhere and ask people about the Twitter files and all the rest of the stuff. And you know what they're going to say to you? They're going to say to you, oh man, I'm so happy. My man, Daddy Elon rolled up in Twitter, took over, took the kitchen sink with him, fucking kicked all those woke liberals. Notice that part. And like, you know, removed all them, and now he's given us the information. And look at that, libs of TikTok, all these right-wing accounts that Twitter has been censoring, has been putting the brakes on, has been reducing their ability to spread their message. Man, we always knew that it was that we were the ones being targeted. That the right was always the victims in all of this. That's what people are going to say. That's what most people are going to say, like, oh yeah, the Twitter files, they're all about revealing the left-wing bias of Twitter. And the what's the word? The campaign that has been waged against conservatives on Twitter, even though there's been no evidence of that. But we'll find out. I'll read the rest of them. But as far as what they're talking about, it's nothing. Right-wingers, conservatives, break TOS more often. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you guys. You guys break the rules more often. You guys constantly go against TOS, constantly post shit you're not supposed to, and then you turn around and go, see, look, it's because I'm a conservative. No, it's because your rhetoric and because the way that conservatives engage in politics is why they end up catching the gavel more often than liberals. It's very simple. Liberals do not spend their time going on Twitter and harassing trans people or gay people or black people or conservatives, quite frankly. Liberals have no fucking interest in conservatives. None whatsoever. I'm a leftist. I'm a progressive. If the conservatives weren't around to stir shit up, I wouldn't even be here. None of us would be constantly having to engage in discourse. But the right is always constantly, and this goes back to their reactionary politics, bitching and moaning about something. So yeah, you stir shit, you get hit. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Be less TOS breaky, I guess. Fuck's sake. Like this isn't a conspiracy because they're conservative. You're seeing a bias because conservatives have earned their bias. Or that bias, sorry. Just fucking Christ. And is it not obvious that Elon only releases stuff that seem to go to favor one end? Like, is that not obvious? Like Crystal Ball's been doing politics a lot longer than I have. And for her to not realize that the curating of information is almost, if not as important as the actual information you're divulging. Like what you choose to actually put out there is incredibly important, especially when there's a broader narrative that one side has been trying to push.
tech companies also collaborate with other governments like Israel, for example. Israel is very active at flagging Palestinian activists that they think are out of bounds and need to be censored or taken down as well. So it really is an issue for us going forward as a society. There's just no doubt about it.
Let that be the takeaway. And look, it also shows you this is going on at all the other social media companies. The only reason we know it is because Elon, spent $44 billion of his own money and apparently doesn't care necessarily about recouping that investment, although we'll see how that goes.
Hey, guys.
We'll see how that goes. It's not like okay, sure. So yeah, I mean, look, it's always, when it comes down to it, it's always going to be in the conservatives' side's interest to kind of muddy the waters and make everything a bit equal in terms of these things. So okay, let's actually take a look. I think somebody linked this to me like as I was getting off, because what was that? That was December 8th. Yep. Yeah. So this went up December 8th during the last stream, like right at the ass end. So I didn't get to read anything. So, all right. Let's see. Thread, the Twitter files, part 2. Twitter's secret blacklists. Fun fact, everything's secret. They're a private institution. They don't actually owe the American people any kind of accountability or transparency, because that's the way private corporations work. Not like the biggest fan of it, but like, yeah. All right. Sorry, let me clear my throat here so I can. Should I do a voice? No, I'm not gonna do a voice. I also don't know what Barry Weiss sounds like. Okay. A new Twitter files investigation reveals that teams of Twitter employees build blacklists, prevent disfavored tweets from spreading, and actively limit the visibility of entire accounts or even trending topics in secret without, and I didn't want to do that, excuse you, all in secret without informing users. Shocking. I'm sure McDonald's doesn't feel the need to tell you, the customer, when they change the McChicken recipe either. Twitter once had a mission, quote, to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Along the way, barriers nevertheless were erected. Do you want to know what like oil companies' like mission statements are? It's called marketing. That's okay. Take, for example, Stanford's Dr. J. Bhattacharya, this guy, we'll take a look at him really quick, who argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children. Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. Let's take a look. Professor, Stanford School of Medicine, MD, PhD, health policy, infectious disease, COVID health and economics, scientific freedom. Okay. Recent abuse strike. Okay. Trends blacklist active. Let's see. What's this guy's? Professor, I'm kind of curious. Let's see. No. Just show me. Actually, yeah, just show me tweets. Western public health pandemic decisions demolish the lives and livelihoods of the poorest in poor countries. The sin is almost too great to contemplate. Restoration starts with repentance. Toby Green. Meanwhile, in poor countries, the informal economy has not recovered. People spent what they had in 2020. No cushion from government. It can't rebuild. So many lives shattered. Media won't report. Hardly anyone on this platform seems to care. Western public pandemic decision demolish. Okay. The Twitter 1.0. This must be. Okay. The Twitter, flush with its success in banning President Trump, decided that it would deploy its near omniscient knowledge and wisdom to the simpler problem of distinguishing scientific and medical truth from untruth on its platform. The Ministry of Truth was born that day. Oh, this is super cringe. This is extra cringe. You're not on a college campus. I'm sorry, you're not. Let's see. Focus protection always made sense. The failure of people from limited circumstances to appreciate the existence of trade-offs in public health policy has undermined public health policy. Wait, the failure of people from limited upper middle class white collar circumstances to appreciate the existence of trade-off. The school of closure apologists say we need to close schools to save lives, but we closed schools longer than any other rich country and still ended up with one of the rich world's highest per capita death tolls. Do I need to say that we have a larger country? Obviously. Oh wait, that's per capita. Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of people didn't get vaccinated also. Okay, so this person seems like a bit weird. I don't have like a definitive take, but person seems a bit off. Focus. Breaking. Oh God, Fauci. Okay, this dude seems like really big interested in not being in you know what I don't like about these guys is they always feel like medical pick-me's, where it's like, I'm not like the other doctors. I'll tell you you can cure your medicine with fucking rubbing rocks or something. To be clear, I'm sure that there are removal requests from other countries. Many of the tweets because of German law. I'm just made aware of the ones in Germany, while those that come from the US, for instance, Twitter rejects them silently. What Fauci got wrong? Natural immunity, not protecting the elderly, school closures, masks useless, wasteful. Okay, this person seems to be really... I think I might have seen this person. They seem to be really, really obsessed with school closures, which make the decision you can make at the time. Like, you know, let's see. Or consider... Okay, so I'll go with this guy. I'll give him like center right since he was also interested in the Trump stuff. So let's go center right. Or consider popular right-wing talk show host Dan Bongino, huge right-winger, who at one point was slapped with a search blacklist. Okay, this is how algorithms work. If you don't want algorithms, that's fine. I'm not the biggest fan of algorithms, but Twitter set the account of conservative activist Charlie Kirk to do not amplify. Okay. Founder president, TPUSA, yep, okay. Twitter denied that it does such things in 2018. Twitter's then head of legal policy and trust and other person said, we do not shadow ban. They added, and we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology. Okay. Company is dishonest. Cool. Welcome to the world. What many people call shadow banning, Twitter executives employee calls visibility filtering. Makes sense. Multiple high-level sources confirmed its meaning. Think about visibility filtering as being a way for us to suppress what people see to different levels. It's a very popular tool, one senior Twitter employee told us. Yeah, so this is basically you're not getting a ban. It's the difference between getting a ban. Like if you're banned off Twitch, if you're banned off Twitter, you're kicked off the platform. This is more or less just kind of putting barriers between you and broader public, but nonetheless, you can reach those numbers. It's just not going to, what's the word? It's not going to favor you. My trade offer. No, not really. What is this? Let's see. Think of visibility filtering refers to Twitter's control over user visibility. It used viewer. Is that what it is? Viewer visibility filtering. God, to block searches of individual users, to limit the scope of a popular tweet's discoverability, to block select users' posts from ever appearing on the trending page, and from inclusion in hashtag searches. All without users' knowledge. Did you really need to put that on one tweet? So again, so far, yeah, it's a company. They're not interested in like no shit. Okay. Let's see. We control visibility quite a bit, and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit. And normal people do not know how much we do. A Twitter engineer told us. 2 additional Twitter. Okay, that's fine. The group that decided whether to limit the reach of certain users was the strategic response team, global escalation team, or the SRT GET, I guess. It often handled up to 200 cases a day. Okay, but there existed a level beyond official ticketing, beyond the rank and file moderators following the company's policy on paper. That is the site integrity policy escalation support known as SIP PES. The secret group included head of legal, policy, and trust. Okay, that person. Global head of okay, the person. Yoel Roth. Okay. Subsequent CEOs, Jack Dorsey and the other guy. This is where the biggest, most politically sensitive decisions got made. Think high follower account controversial. Okay, so what we're actually talking about. Cool. Another employee told us. For these, there would be no ticket or anything. Cool. Okay. One of the accounts that rose to this level of scrutiny was Libs of TikTok, an account, a hate account, that was on the trends blacklist and was designated as do not take action on user without consulting with SIPPES. Okay, so let's like kind of one sec. High profile, active, notifications spike, trends blacklist, recent abuse strike, Twitter blue verified, multiple action, strike count 2, high profile, not safe for work. Let's see. Where's the thing they're talking about? All videos, do not take action without consulting the SIPPES. Okay, yeah. So essentially, Libs of TikTok and probably accounts like Libs of TikTok are quartered off to basically the highest levels, meaning that they're not subject to the same TOS and the same scrutiny that that regular moderators would be handling. So that's nice. That's really cool. Libs of TikTok getting special treatment. That's nice. The account, which Chaya Raichik, piece of shit, began in November 2020 and now boasts over 1.4 million followers, was subjected to 6 suspensions in 2022 alone. Raichik says each time Raichik was blocked from posting for as long as a week. Sounds like a skill issue. Stop getting suspensions. Stop breaking TOS. Not hard. Twitter repeatedly informed Raichik that she had been suspended for violating Twitter's policy against hateful conduct, which is interesting because that's literally her entire account. But in an internal SIPPES memo from October 22nd, after her 7th suspension, the committee acknowledged that Libs of TikTok had not directly engaged in behavior violative of the hateful conduct policy. See here, site policy recommends placing Libs of TikTok in a not verified. How are you not verified? In a 7-day timeout at the account level, meaning not for a specific tweet, based on the account's continued pattern of indirectly violating Twitter's hateful conduct policy by tweeting content that either leads to or intends to incite harassment against individuals and institutions that support LGBT communities. Also, some of those are schools, which don't do that, and hospitals, which also don't do that. Those are public utilities, not... I mean, unfortunately, hospitals are run by private institutions, private corporations. But either way, those are like public utilities for the most part. At this time, site policy has not found explicitly violative tweets, which would result in a permanent suspension of the account. This type of enforcement action, repeated 7-day timeouts at the account level, will not lead to permanent suspension. However, should Libs of TikTok engage in any direct tweet level violations of any site policies, what the fuck? We will move forward with a permanent suspension assessment. Since its most recent timeout, while Libs of TikTok has not directly engaged in behavior violative of the hateful conduct policy, the user has continued targeting individuals, allies, supporters of the LGBTQIA community for alleged misconduct and targeting of at least one of these institutions. Okay, so Libs of TikTok quartered off into basically the higher echelons to make a decision, and fun fact, they just kind of let them continue to exist. So, okay, that's okay. The committee justified her suspensions internally by claiming her posts encourage online harassment of hospitals and medical providers by insinuating, quote, that gender-affirming healthcare is equivalent to child abuse or grooming, which it's not. Compare this to what happened when Raichik herself was doxxed on November 21st, 2022. A photo of her home with her address was posted in a tweet that has garnered more than 10,000 likes. When Rachel told Twitter that her address had been disseminated, she says Twitter support responded with this message: "We reviewed the reported content and didn't find it to be a violation of the Twitter rules. No action was taken. The doxing tweet is still up. Can I see this? Hello, thanks for reaching out. We reviewed the reported content and didn't find it to be violative." Okay. Cool. The internal Slack messages Twitter employees spoke of using technicalities to restrict the visibility of tweets and subjects. Here's Yoel Roth's Twitter's then global. Oh my God, you don't have to say that every time. You literally said it. But you don't have to keep saying what his position is. You said it fucking 20 tweets ago. Jesus Christ. In a direct message to colleagues in early 2021. A lot of times, SI, I'm assuming that's the higher up team, has used technicality spam enforcements as a way to solve a problem created by safety under enforcing their policies, which again isn't a problem per se, but it keeps us from addressing the root cause of the issue, which is that our safety policies need some attention. Okay. 6 days later, in a direct message with an employee on the health, misinformation, privacy, and identity research team, Roth requested more research to support expanding, quote, non-removal policy interventions like disabling engagements and de-amplifying or visibility filtering. What? Okay, one of the biggest areas I'd love research support on is response non-removal policy interventions like disabling engagements and de-amplifying. Okay. The hypothesis underlying much of what we've implemented is that if exposure to, e.g., misinformation directly causes harm, we should use remediations that reduce exposure and limiting the spread and virality, that's the word, of content is a good way to do that by just reducing prevalence overall. We got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term, but we're going to need to make more robust case to get this into our repertoire of policy remedies, especially for other policy domains. So I'd love research's point of view on that. Okay, makes sense. They don't want to ban people, but they think that kind of de-amplifying people, which makes that's, to me, that's a fair response. If you're like, fine, you can keep tweeting, you can keep doing your stuff, but you don't get to be amplified. Also, yeah, I mean, I want to make sure SSI. Okay. So he was talking about that. Okay. Roth wrote the hypothesis. I just read this, lady. He added, I just read that. There is more to come on this story, which was reported by Abigail Schreier. Okay. The offers have been broad and expanding access to Twitter's files. The only condition we agreed to was that the material would first be published on Twitter. We're just getting started on our reporting. Documents cannot tell the whole story here. A big thank you to everyone. Okay, don't care. Okay. So that's so episode 2. What have we learned so far? Episode 2. Summary. All right, episode 2. We learned that there are algorithms for deprioritizing people within Twitter, because you can't do all of this by hand, which makes sense. We learned that it's all right-wingers. Great, lovely. Glad that this information wasn't curated at all. Let's see. We also learned that there's a higher up board that makes decisions on large accounts like Libs of TikTok, and that Libs of TikTok seems to have given preferential treatment in terms of their ban stat or suspension status. Based on the TOS that already exists within Twitter, Libs of TikTok would have been yeeted rather quickly. But because of their large stature within the platform, or on the platform, I should say, the largest decision makers on Twitter decided to keep her up. So, okay. That seems to be... That's episode 2. All right, let's go. We're on to episode 3. We're on episode 3, right? Right? Matt, I swear to fuck, why didn't you put part 3, you douche? God damn it. Okay. The Twitter files, the removal of Donald Trump, part 1. Wait, what's Thank you, part 4, part Matt, you piece of shit. Okay. Okay, and Barry's back to doing, oh my god. This is this really makes me angry watching that fucking Breaking Points video. It's all just right. Okay. It's all from the right wing frame. Okay. Removal of Donald Trump, part 1, October 2020 to January through January 6th, right? January. Okay. The day of. Okay. The world knows much of the story of what happened between riots at the Capitol on January 6th and the removal of President Donald Trump from Twitter on January 8th. We'll show you what hasn't been revealed, the erosion of standards within the company in months before Jan 6, decisions by high-ranking executives to violate their own policies, to protect libs of TikTok, by the way, and more, against the backdrop of ongoing, documented interaction with federal agencies. Okay. Look. I understand, and look, we are not broadly fans of Fed boys here, all right? Fed boys, we do not like here, but Fed boys do a necessary job. Also, I don't really think inherently working with Fed boys is bad. It really kind of depends. Let's see. The first installment covers the period before the election through January 6th. Tomorrow, I don't care, somebody else, and on when, I don't care. Okay. Whatever your opinion on the decision to remove Trump that day, the internal communication at Twitter between January 6th through January 8th have clear historical import. Even Twitter's employees understood in the moment that it was a landmark moment in the annals of speech. Jesus Christ, the fucking guys. It's not real, man. Twitter's not real, man. Is this the first sitting head of state to ever be suspended? Probably not. Probably shouldn't have been the first one. There are definitely heads of states that do not need this platform. As soon as they finished banning Trump, Twitter execs started processing new power. They prepared to ban future presidents and White Houses, perhaps even Joe Biden. The quote new administration says one exec will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary. Okay, let's take a look. As stated in our ban evasion policy, if it is clear that another account is being used for the purposes of evading a ban, it is also subject to suspension for government accounts such as POTUS and White House. We will not suspend those accounts, but will take action to limit their use. However, these accounts will be transitioned over to the new administration in due course and will not be suspended by Twitter unless absolutely necessary to alleviate real-world harm. This is essentially just because Donald Trump has his own Twitter account, and then there's the president of the United States Twitter account, which gets shifted over to whoever the president is. It's really weird that the presidency comes with its own Twitter account and the building comes with its own Twitter account, but times we live in, I guess. Twitter executives removed Trump in part over what one executive called the quote context surrounding actions by Trump and supporters over the course of the election and frankly last 4+ days. In the end, they looked at the broad picture, but that approach can cut both ways. Okay. Hi Vijaya, I'm working with Plank on my team to put together a doc to share with you a point of view from research, ours academics with whom we have been working with, on Donald Trump's language as coded incitement to further violence. Makes sense. In the meantime, here is our quick take. The decision on whether to pull that particular tweet or use that as a last straw for Trump depends on many factors, including 1, the overall context and narrative in which that tweet lives. We currently analyze tweets and consider them at a tweet-by-tweet basis. God, I hate this timeline. Which does not appropriately take into account the context surrounding. You can use the yelling fire into a crowded theater example. Context matters, and the narrative that Trump and his friends have pursued over the course of the election and frankly the last 4+ years must be taken into account when interpreting and analyzing that tweet. 2. The larger question is around our moral imperative and decision as a company, which user sentiment should not drive based on number 1. Makes sense? And I believe that that his tweet does violate our rules when taking that historical context and current climate into account. Makes sense. Seems like they did their due diligence. Happy about that. Let's see. The bulk of the internal debate leading to Trump's ban took place in those 3 January days. However, the intellectual framework was laid in the months preceding the Capitol riots. Before January 6th, Twitter was a unique mix of automated rules-based enforcements and more subjective moderation by senior executives. Makes sense? As Barry Weiss reported, the firm had a vast array of tools for manipulating visibility, most of all which were thrown at Trump and others pre-January 6th. Let's see. Okay. Too far. As the election approached, senior executives, perhaps under pressure from federal agencies with whom they met more as time progressed, increasingly struggled with the rules and began to speak of Vios as pretexts to do what they'd likely have done anyway. What the fuck is Vios? I know what Fios is. What the fuck is Vios? Well, that didn't tell me it. What does Vios mean? What the fuck? Okay, it seems like it's a tech term. Okay, don't care. Viability. Okay, thank you. Options, thank you. After Jan 6 internal Slacks show Twitter. Also, shout out to you, because this is why I'm reading this. Let's see. After January 6, internal Slack, go away, is getting a kick out of intensified relationships with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety Head. Oh my God, if I have to hear this dude's position another time. Lamenting a lack of generic enough calendar descriptions is concealing his very interesting meeting partners. Viable options. That makes sense. Viable options make sense. It happens. I'm a big believer in calendar transparency, but I reached a certain point where my meetings became very interesting to people, and they weren't meeting names generic enough to cover. Okay. Very boring business meeting that is definitely not about Trump. Pretty much. Definitely not meeting with the FBI, I swear. Lamau. I like that. That's fun. Sometimes I find it funny how, like, sometimes, you gotta remember these people are like normal, are people, and just make bad jokes and sarcasm every once in a while. It's fun to see that the Yoel Roth doesn't seem to have not be above sarcasm, I guess. These initial reports are based on searches for docs linked to prominent executives whose names are already public. They include Roth, former and recently plank-walked deputy general counsel, and former Jim Baker. Okay. One particular Slack channel offers a unique window into the evolving thinking of top officials in late 2020, early 2021. Can we talk about how, like, we're kind of like throwing people's private Slack messages onto like Twitter while also bemoaning and opining about privacy for users? I just find that kind of interesting. Like, it seems like nobody's really interested in the privacy of the people we're talking about. On October 8th, 2020, executives opened a channel called US 2020 Enforcement. Through January 6th, this would be home for discussions about election-related removals, especially ones that involved high-profile accounts, often VITs, very important tweeters. God, I hate this timeline. Hey, everyone. Starting tomorrow, oh my God, until November 5th, the channel will be used for the following reasons related to the 2020 election. Trends identified that required scaled investigations, high-profile accounts, escalations that potentially require PII, soft interventions, scalable solutions required. Oh my God, I'm not reading all of this. You get the point. There was at least some tension between safety op a larger department whose staffers used a more rules-based process for addressing issues like porn scams and threats, and a smaller, more powerful cadre of senior policy execs like Roth and Gad. Okay, the latter group were a high-speed Supreme Court of moderation. I just want to say, all moderation on a private platform is supreme. Like, there is no difference. It's their platform. They get to decide what's on it. Like, let's just be really clear. Like, I know I've said that a couple times, but like, let's be really clear about that. Private platform, you don't have a right for your tweet to ever exist. The latter group were high speed, right. Okay. Breaking 50,000 Ohio voters getting wrong absentee ballots out of control, a rigged election. Oh, I can't read that. Okay. Zoom in a bit, please. That's not going to zoom in. Okay, I'm just going to have to suffer, I guess. Thanks, Twitter. Hi, everyone. Received this escalation just now. Quote, a rigged election would be enough to be a violation, right? If the claim of fact were inaccurate, yes. But it looks like that's true. Okay. The claim might be, it's okay. So there's sometimes a problem when you're like kind of assessing these sorts of things, where the claim of 50,000 Ohio voters getting the wrong absentee ballots could be true. The second part of that about a rigged election is an assessment of that, which is, what's the word? False and unsubstantiated. And also dangerous. I don't know if they took this down. During that time, executives were also, it seems like they kept it up because the claim is true. So, deference to that. But like the language and the message you're trying to send is that the election was stolen at the end of the day. During this time, executives were also clearly liaising. Okay. I know liaison, but what is liaising? Whatever. With federal enforcement and intelligence agencies about moderation of election-related content. While we're still at the start of reviewing the Twitter files, we're finding out more about these interactions every day. The policy director, Nick Pickles, is asked if they should say Twitter detects misinfo through ML, human review, and partnerships with outside experts and employees. The employees asks, I know that's been a slippery process. Not sure if you want our public explanation to hang on that. Let's see. Can we just say partnerships, e.g., not sure we describe the FBI, DHS as experts, or some NGOs that aren't academic? Okay. Pickles quickly asked if they could just say, we just did that. Let's see. This post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Roth not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the office of the Director of National Intelligence. All right. Yol has checked in. Here's what they said. What's new for you since our last check-in? Hacked materials exploded. We blocked the New York Post story. Then we unblocked it, but said the opposite. Then said we unblocked it. And now we're in a messy situation where our policy is in shambles. Communications is angry. Reporters think we're idiots. And we're refactoring in an exceedingly complex policy 18 days out from the election. In short, fuck my life. Weekly sync with FBI, DHS, DNI on election security. The meeting happened about 15 minutes after the aforementioned hacked materials implosion. The government declined to share anything useful when asked. Monthly meetings with FBI, FITF briefed on several ongoing investigations. Cool. Yeah, and also the Hunter laptop story was always kind of shady, so no wonder the FBI was probably investigating it. Ross report is almost farcical in its self-flagellating tone. We blocked the NYPD story, unblocked it, said we did the opposite. Combs is angry, reporters think we're idiots, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, I found that to be I found that message. I really felt that message of like, I fucking hate this right now. Some of Ross' later slacks indicate his weekly confabs with federal law enforcement involve separate meetings. Here he ghosts the FBI and DHS, respectively, to go first on an Aspen Institute thing, then take a call with Apple. Hey there, I have to miss the FBI DHS meetings today, unfortunately. I saw you're on the invites for both as our site policy. Can you give me a quick readout if there's anything interesting that comes up? Sure thing, I hope everything's okay. Yeah, I just have conflicts at both times. An Aspen Institute thing this morning on vaccines that I have to present at, and then call with Apple to avoid us getting kicked off the App Store during a DHS one. This all seems like a lot of fun. Those both seem very important indeed. Okay. God, this seems like so much more mundane. Here, the FBI sends reports about a pair of tweets, the second of which involves former Tippecanoe, oh, that's a fun name, Tippecanoe County, Indiana counselor and Republican named John Basham, claiming, quote, between 2% and 25%. Those are very different numbers. Of ballots by mail are being rejected for errors. We get a report from the FBI concerning 2 tweets related to the, quote, shredding of mail-in ballots. This is proven to be false via PolitiFact. We have a moment ready for this. I believe was deemed no visibility on numerous occasions. Okay, so the FBI said the FBI basically reported them. Okay, cool. The FBI's second report concerned this tweet by John Basham. Editorial, the Democrats are in complete panic as their massive push for vote by mail is backfiring on them. 2 things are unfolding. 1, an unexpected number of registered Republicans are returning ballots. You sure about that? 2, between 2% and 25% of mail-in ballots are being rejected for errors. I guess this is the evidence. Somebody took a bunch of pictures. Cool. FBI's right, because this guy is because what is he? Isn't he a Indiana counselor? Yeah, he works at least tangentially, if not just directly in local government. So yeah, when you say sushy shit as a representative, as a public figure, not a public figure, as a public servant, like, yeah, yeah, that's bad. Okay. Sorry. The FBI flagged tweet then got circulated in the enforcement Slack. Twitter cited PolitiFact to say the first story was, quote, proven to be false, and then noted the second was already deemed no viability on numerous occasions. Right, we read that. The group then decides to apply a, quote, learn how voting is safe and secure label because one commenter says it's totally normal to have 2% to have a 2% error rate, which is mostly true. Roth then gives the final go-ahead to the process initiated by the FBI. I think we can use the mail-in voting label for this one as is. Okay, so just those really annoying, cringy tags. Makes sense. Okay. Examining the entire election enforcement Slack, we didn't see one reference to moderation requests from the Trump campaign, the Trump White House, or Republicans generally. We looked. They may exist. We were told they do. However, they were absent here. So again, I'm going to point out and keep this in your mind whenever you read these. They were not given 100% free access. Everything that they've been given has been curated by Musk and Musk's team. So keep that in mind. The fact that people are telling them this stuff exists, but it wasn't in what you were given, that should make you skeptical of this. Not that it didn't happen, but why this is the only frame and this is the only angle that they want to take. Whew, okay, man. You know, I don't binge watch a lot of TV shows, but we're binge watching this one. Twitter Files, Part 4, the removal of Donald Trump January 7th. As the pressure builds, Twitter executives build the case for a permanent ban. On January, Michael, who are you? Pro-civilization, that's never good. Time hero of the environment, best-selling author of Apocalypse Never and San Francisco. Okay. Green Book Award, MD, my initials. Uh-huh. Not a doc. So you're not a doctor. Okay. No, show me other tweets. I just need to get a vibes check. Holy shit. You tweeted a lot about this. Nope. Keep going. Keep going. Is this guy a journalist actually? Or is he just a writer? Okay. Why progressives ruin Could it possibly be that the people that Elon has decided to disseminate his Twitter files could be a bit biased? All right, well, okay. With that poisoning of the well, on January 7th, senior Twitter executives create justifications to ban Trump, seek a change of policy for Trump alone, distinct from other political leaders, express no concern for the free speech or democracy implications of a ban. This Twitter files is reported with L. Woodhouse. Woodhouse, isn't that the dude from Journalists? And so the actual person. So like the actual person. I'm kind of getting the sense that this person is the actual. Yeah, this person looks like an actual journalist. This person looks like a hack writer. Okay. All right. For those catching up, please see part 1. No. Part 2, we did that. Part 3, we're past it. For years, Twitter had resisted calls to ban Trump. Blocking a world leader from Twitter, it wrote in 2018, would hide important info and hamper the necessary discussion around their words and actions. Makes sense. Which, that makes sense to me. But after the events of January 6th, the internal and external pressure on Twitter CEO, Jack, grows. Former First Lady Michelle Obama, tech journalist Kara Swisher, the ADL high-tech VC Chris Sacca, I have no idea who you are. Somehow I don't think that's the right person. And many others publicly call on Twitter to permanently ban Trump. Yep, that's not this person's Twitter handle. Good job. You've got blood on your hands, Jack and Zuck. For 4 years, you've rationalized this terror, inciting violent treason is not a free speech exercise. If you work at those companies, it's on you too. Shut it down. Makes sense? Oh, I'm not reading. I'll read the highlighted part. Now is the time for Silicon Valley companies to stop enabling the monstrous behavior and go even further than they have already by permanently banning this man from their platforms and putting, fun fact, they didn't even do that. They really just suspended him. It's time for social media platforms to permanently ban Trump. It's really funny because he never was. Okay, cool. Keep going. Dorsey was on vacation in French Polynesia the week of January 4th through the 8th. He phoned into meetings, but also delegated much of the handling of the situation to senior executives. I'm assuming this is that dude. Yep, Yo Roth. And head of legal. Makes sense. As context, it's important to understand that Twitter staff and senior executives were overwhelmingly progressive. In 2018, 2020, and 2022, 96, 98, and 99% of Twitter staff political donations went to Democrats. I'm sorry, that's called free speech. Sorry, it's called free speech. Sorry. Sounds like a skill issue. Right-wingers build a better fucking social media site. In 2017, Roth tweeted that there were actual Nazis in the White House. In April 2022, Roth, it's funny. There are actual Nazis in the Republican Party now. One of them's running for president. In 2022, Roth told colleagues that his goal, quote, is to drive change in the world, which is why he decided not to become an academic. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, really rich people are able to influence the world in a disproportionate way. Yep, that's a leftist critique, all right. On January 7th, Jack emails employees saying Twitter needs to remain consistent in its policies, including the right of users to return to Twitter after a temporary suspension. After, Roth reassures an employee that, people who care about this aren't happy with where we are. What's new? Around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, Roth DMs his colleagues with the news that he is excited to share. Guess what he write? Oh, let's just guess what? Jack just approved repeat offender for civic integrity. Directional approach would be something like labels which are severe enough to result in disabled engagements incur strikes. Strike 1, label 1 strike. Strike 2, label only. Strike 3, label and a 12-hour timeout. Strike 4, Jesus guys, label plus 7-day timeout. Strike 5, permanent suspension. All right. Also okay, whatever. Progress, exclaims a member of Roth's trust and safety team. The exchange between Roth and his colleagues makes clear that they had been pushing Jack for greater restrictions on speech Twitter allows around elections. That makes sense. Also, you have, how many was it? You have 5 fucking strikes. If you can't help but continue to do that, then you can get yeeted. Sorry. The colleague wants to know if the decision means Trump can finally be banned. The person asked, does the incitement of violence aspect change that calculus? Trump continues to just have his 1 strike. This is for everything else. Again, preferential treatment. I don't know what conservatives are complaining about. Ross Colley's query about incitement of violence heavily foreshadows what will happen the following day. On January 8th, Twitter announces a permanent ban on Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Makes sense? On January the 8th, Twitter says its ban is based on specifically how Trump's tweets are being received and interpreted. But in 2019, Twitter said it did, quote, not attempt to determine all potential interpretations of the content or its intent. Okay. That's okay. That was probably a mistake to a degree. The only serious concern we found expressed within Twitter over the implications for free speech and democracy of banning Trump came from a junior person in the organization. It was tucked away in a lower level Slack channel known as Site Integrity Auto. This might be an unpopular opinion, but one-off ad hoc decisions like this that don't appear rooted in policy are, in my honest opinion, a slippery slope and reflect an alternatively equally dictatorial problem. This now appears to be a fiat by an online platform CEO with a global presence that can gatekeep speech for the entire world, which seems unsustainable. Oh, really? You mean having incredibly large tech giants be able to control all of our speech, would be a bad thing? Maybe you could turn that watchful eye onto other systems. Maybe you're almost there, man. You're almost there. It's almost like billionaires have an undue amount of influence on the world. This might be, yeah. Okay. Twitter employees use the term one-off frequently in their Slack discussions. Its frequent use reveals significant employee discretion over when and whether to apply warning labels on tweets and strikes on users. There's always abuse one-off. Okay, right. Recall from Twitter Files 2 by Barry Weiss that according to Twitter staff, we control visibility quite about. Yes, we know that. Twitter employees recognize the difference between their own policies and Twitter's terms of service, but they also engage in complex interpretations of content in order to stamp out prohibited tweets as a series of exchanges over the Stop the Steal hashtag reveal. Hey, hope you're doing okay, and we were able to get some sleep. Can we, or have we already discussed blocking the Stop the Steal hashtag? It's furthering fake news in a dangerous way from what I can tell. Hey there. We're proactively surfacing the content for review under civic integrity, and it should be blocked from the type head and trends. If you're seeing it either of the latter two, let me know ASAP and PT can fix. I just saw the hashtag and then it did a search on it and all the content was appalling. So I don't think it's showing up elsewhere. Thank you for all you're doing. I'll flag to the election squad. Remember, let's see, find appalling and what it is a TOS violation are not the exact overlook. Okay. Cool. Really ask if they can. Okay. No, there's a lot going on. Any objections to adding "Stop the Steal" and "Kraken" to the CHAQ term lists, as they aren't. If they aren't there already, the daylight separating Q and "Stop the Steal" stuff now effectively zero. Kraken for sure. If it's not already there, I'm too worried about the risk of de-amplifying counter speech with "Stop the Steal." Okay, makes sense. Indeed notes Roth's colleague a quick search to the top of top "Stop the Steal" tweets and their counter speech. But they quickly come up with a solution. De-amplifying accounts would "Stop the Steal" in the name and profile, since those are not affiliated with counter speech. Yeah, just a quick search to top of their counter speech. Kraken I'm comfortable with. Top tweets are generally Q related, and I'm noticing an absence of counter speech. It's also super common on profiles. Actually, can we de-amplify accounts with "Stop the Steal" in the name / profile level? Those are affiliated with counter speech. Aren't affiliated with counter speech. Makes sense. But it turns out that even blacklisting Kraken is less straightforward than we thought. That's because Kraken, in addition to being a QAnon conspiracy theory based on mythical Norwegian sea monster, is also the name of a cryptocurrency exchange and was thus allow-listed. What was it? What was that word? Allow-listed. Okay, whatever. Also, I think adding Kraken to its various bots has broken something. No, you're... Oh, guys, I removed the Kraken the other day, FYI. It did break something. There's an app called Kraken app or something. If we allow list that, no concerns about putting it back, but would want to see if there are any FPs. The brand Kraken account is allows. Okay, crypto exchange. Cool. I think I've heard of that actually. Employees struggle with whether to punish users who share screenshots of Trump's deleted Jan 6 tweets. We should bounce these tweets with a strike given the screenshot violates policy. They're criticizing Trump, so I'm a bit hesitant with applying strike to this user. Fuck off, my god, even Twitter says it's inciting violence. Okay, makes sense. Let's see. Okay. What if the user dislikes Trump and objects to Twitter's censorship? The tweet still gets deleted, but since the intention is not to deny the election result, no punishing strike is applied. If there are instances where the intent is unclear, please feel free to raise. Oh god, that's small. Don't even... Okay, let's see. I'm in agreement. One-off works for commentary. Strike if the tweet is agreeing with tweet's view. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so if you're just like spreading it, even though they've said not on our platform, then you'll get it. If you're critiquing it, okay. Around noon, a confused senior executive in advertising sales sends a DM to Roth. Sales exec Jack says, "We will permanently suspend Trump if our policies are violated after a 12-hour account lock." What policies is Jack talking about? Any policy violations? Hi, y'all. I have a question response regarding Twitter safety. Internal awareness. This would be any policy violation, not just limited to elections. But before sharing anything, please coordinate with blank on the comm side. Obviously, a ton of interest in the position on this. What happens next is essential in understanding how Twitter justified banning Trump. Says X. Are we dropping the public interest policy now? Roth 6 hours later. In this specific case, we're changing our public interest approach for this account. That makes sense. It is the president of the United States is a unique account, I think, where you kind of have to be a bit more deferential. The ad exec is referring to Twitter's policy of public interest exceptions, which allows the content of elected officials, even if it violates Twitter's rules. If it directly contributes to understanding or discussion of the matter of public concern. At present, we limit exceptions to one critical type of public interest content, tweets from elected and governmental officials, given the significant public interest in knowing and being able to discuss these actions and statements. That makes sense. Mainly because you want government officials to always be up there, just so that you can... citizens can basically always comment on them and always be aware of what the representatives are saying. That makes sense. Roth pushes the permanent suspension of Matt Gaetz, even though it, quote, doesn't quite fit anywhere. Let's see. What's the latest on Antifa claims? Anything brewing policy-wise? C is is yelling from other room that we should just ban gates. Hey, SP, SI are working on that. It doesn't quite fit anywhere, but I'm trying to talk safety into treating it as an incitement. I think we'll get over the line for removal as a conspiracy that incites violence. Was direction and Vijaya was okay with it. Okay. All right, around 2:30, comms execs DM Roth say they don't want to make a big deal of the QAnon ban at the media because they fear if we push this, it looks like they're trying to offer up something in place of the thing that everyone wants, meaning Trump ban. We're good either way. Okay, makes sense. Wait, huh? Huh? Wait, huh? Huh? I'm confused. What? More tweets. Wait, replies? I don't want replies. Wait, what? Wait, reload the page real quick. Huh? Wait, did you just like end it there? Was that like it? Did you seriously just end it with, okay. That really did not feel like the end of the thread, but it kind of feels like it. Did this? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, totally non-biased presenter retweeting Kyle Rittenhouse. Okay. Whew. Okay. Down to the last of, well, at least we're caught up. The Twitter files, part 5, the removal of Trump from Twitter. I'm assuming part 2, but nobody seems to be on the same page. Also, we're back to ordering these. Okay, how many of these are there? I'm kind of just curious. Are we back up to like 20 again? Wait, okay, where are we at? Where are we at? What are we at this time? 30 drops. Let's go. All right. Let's try to get through this. On the morning of January 8th, President Donald Trump, with one remaining strike before being at risk of a permanent suspension of Twitter, tweets twice. 6:46 a.m. The 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first, yeah, we all know this, will not disrespect, treat unfairly in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, we know this. To all those who have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on the 20th. For years, Twitter had resisted calls, both internal and external, to ban Trump on the grounds that blocking, that blocking a world leader from the platform or removing their controversial tweets that would hide important information that people should be able to see and debate. Our mission is to provide a forum that enables people to be informed and to engage their leaders directly. The company wrote in 2019, Twitter's aim was to, quote, protect the public's right to hear from their leaders and to hold them to account. Okay? But after January 6th, as Matt Taibbi and this other guy have documented, pressure grew both inside and outside of Twitter to ban Trump. So you can say all of this, which again, they're a private corporation. Their platform gets to be whatever they want it to be. But even then, like, there is a point where you can say that a public figure, even a elected official, needs to be what's the word? Not silenced, but like their spread needs to be impeded a bit. Actually, let me read this tweet by homeboy here. Stanford University professor of medicine, Dr. was one of the many platforms blacklist, according to the information Thursday. Barry Weiss. Yes, that's correct. That guy's kind of sussy. Also, I'm like 50-50 on him. It's a bit out there in my opinion, but who knows? There were dissenters inside Twitter. Maybe because I am from China, said one employee on January 7th, I deeply understand how censorship can destroy the public conversation. There's a big difference between China's censorship and America's, especially in this case, especially when China, the government, is doing it. This is, again, a private platform. I understand this fear, but I also think it's important to understand that censorship by a government is very different than censorship of the government. The First Amendment in the United States, similar legislation in other countries with similar concepts, exists specifically to prevent the government from silencing the people. I respect that, but realistically, we impose far stricter rules on effectively everybody else on the platform. Okay. We started labeling / restricting his tweets when they became a threat to democracy and seemed like that was our red line. Yesterday, he clearly attempted to overthrow our democratic system of government and showed no signs of remorse. If this is not clear reason to suspend him, again, as an unhinged ruler attempting to subvert the most powerful democracy, I'm not sure what would be. Shrug. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, this person's concern is valid, but only, like, you have to understand the context of what was happening. But voices like that one appear to have been a distinct minority within the company. Across Slack channels, many Twitter employees were upset that Trump hadn't been banned earlier. After January 6th, Twitter employees organized to demand their employer ban Trump. There's a lot of employee advocacy happening, said one Twitter. I am struggling to understand the decision of not to ban Trump altogether, given that he is inciting people. Okay, makes sense. If Alex Jones shut down Get Your Battle Rifles, he's far exceeded that standard. Yeah, makes sense. We have to do the right thing and ban this account. It's pretty obvious he's going to try to thread the needle of incitement without violating the rules. We have, okay, makes sense. In the early afternoon of January 8th, the Washington Post published an open letter signed by over 300 Twitter employees to Jack Dorsey. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightly termed insurrection. But the Twitter staff assigned to evaluate tweets quickly concluded that Trump had not violated Twitter's policies. I think we'd have a hard time saying saying this is incitement, wrote one staffer. It's pretty clear he's saying American patriots are the ones who voted for him and not terrorists. We can call them that, right? From Wednesday. Another staffer agreed. Don't see incitement angle here. Okay. I see blank pinged us. I don't see incitement to fear. What PC could be trying to incite fear about? I don't see the about. Okay, same thing. I think we'd have a hard time saying this incitement. It's pretty clear he's saying America. Don't see the incitement angle here. Okay. I would disagree, but okay. I also am not seeing clear or coded incitement in the Donald Trump tweet. Wrote somebody else. I'll respond to in the election channel and say that our team has assessed and found no violations. Okay. She does just that as an FYI. Safety has assessed that Donald Trump tweet above and determined that there is no violation. Okay. Cool. Later, somebody else. For months, I had been begging for and anticipating the attempt to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. Next, Twitter's safety team decides that Trump's 7:44 a.m. tweet is also not in violation. They're unequivocal. It's a clear not violation. It's just to say he's not attending the inauguration. Makes sense. To understand Twitter's decision to ban Trump, we must consider how Twitter deals with other heads of state and political leaders, including Iran, Nigeria, and Ethiopia. In June of 2018, Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, I think I got that right, tweeted, quote, Israel is a malignant cancerous tumor in the West Asian region that has to be removed and eradicated. It is possible and it will happen. Twitter neither deleted the tweet nor banned the Ayatollah. Makes sense. In October of 2020, the former Malaysian prime minister said it was Muslims have a right to be angry and to kill millions of French people for the massacres of the past. Okay. But the tweet below was taken. Oh, wait. Twitter deleted his tweet for glorifying violence, but he remains on the platform. I mean, we already established that you can get multiple strikes. Like, that's a thing. Muhammad Buhari, the president of Nigeria, incited violence against pro-Biafra groups. Those of us in the fields for 30 months who went through the war, he wrote, will treat them in the language they understand. Twitter deleted the tweet but didn't ban him. Okay. In October of 2021, Twitter allowed Ethiopian Prime Minister Twitter allowed the tweet to remain up. So, real quick, something that's kind of missing from these is, while I do think that these tweets are not good and not based at all, the big question and the whole reason that they banned Trump was because he was tweeting while there was like a coup attempt happening. While all of this language is bad, it wouldn't really pass the immediacy of a ban. Like, I can see them making the argument of like, we can leave this speech up because people should be able to critique it, but it's different when it's like marching orders, because then it's like, oh, well, sure, people can critique the marching orders and the incitement that Trump was engaging in. The fact that it was immediately being acted upon is what made it too dangerous to host. In early February of 2021, Prime Minister Modi, okay, bunch of whataboutism, I don't care. Twitter executives did ban Trump, even though key staffers said that Trump had not incited violence, not even in a coded way. Okay. Less than 90 minutes after Twitter employees had determined that Trump's tweets were not in violation of Twitter policy, Vijaya Gad, Twitter's head of legal policy and trust, asked whether it could in fact be coded incitement to further violence. If you have any context, okay, let's see. Thanks. The biggest question is whether a tweet like that one this morning from Trump, which isn't a rule violation in its face, is being used as a coded incitement and further violence. Why is this a negative? Okay. If you have any context or insight, we should consider. I'm all ears. E.g., use of term American patriots, and they will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form. This is an interesting question. I'm going to speak with my team ASAP to see if we can run a quick survey to get reactions to the language contained in the tweet and get back to you. I'm not sure I would rely on a survey. I worry about how that would be perceived externally, wondering if there's any past research that could be relevant. I mean, she is the head of legal. That makes sense. A few minutes later, Twitter employees on the scaled enforcement team suggest that Trump's tweet may have violated Twitter's glorification of violence policy if you interpreted the phrase American patriots referred to the rioters. Let's see. Team, my laptop is second. Team scale, If we consider American patriots rioters, they have a point from my point of view. Scale has said they understand our position, but will continue to push their government assessment with leadership. They see it as he is the leader of a violent extremist group who is glorifying the group and its recent actions. Do you think it should be required of government or Donald Trump's assessment, or would it be helpful? I think it could be helpful, or maybe a write-up of what violation assessment could look like, just in case. Scale. Okay. Things escalate from there. Members of the team came to quote view him as the leader of the terrorist group responsible for the violent and deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on the basis and on shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. Jesus Christ. Happens when you're quoting. Just to update you, I spoke to Blank just now. They understand our assessment of this individual tweet, but they now view him as the leader of a terrorist group responsible for violence and deaths comparable to Christchurch shooter or Hitler, and on that basis and on the totality of his tweets, he should be deplatformed. They will continue to push that argument with leadership, and we will see where it falls. Okay, so they make the argument that he's a fascist. Makes sense. 2 hours later, Twitter executives host a 30-minute all-staff meeting. Dorsey, Gad answer staff questions as to why Trump wasn't banned yet, but they make some employees angrier. Multiple tweeps, Twitter employees, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders. Relays Yoel Roth to colleagues. I'm not sure who should hear this, but if you look at the conversation in that, plenty of employees are not responding well to the 30-minute brief. I feel people want to feel heard and having someone with the right purview to reason with. And yet, I am sure Jack and Vijaya are totally saturated. I wonder if we can mobilize people who are on the peripheral of decision making, but not all consumed to engage with internal discussions. Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on it. Candidly, not a lot of people who are close to the decisions would feel safe engaging there. Multiple tweets, Twitter employees, have quoted the banality of evil, suggesting that people implementing our policies are like Nazis following orders, which, as someone responsible for our policies who had direct family members in Auschwitz, is not exactly an environment I want to wade into. People are angry and want to express themselves, but the way the conversation happens can close off meaningful engagement. That's true. That's probably a bit of a stretch. That's it. Twitter won't allow me to retweet this, so my pronouns are prosecute. I strongly disagree. Forcing your pronouns upon us and whether. As for Fauci, okay. So I guess that's it. I did see something before we started. I want to check the trending really quickly. But Trust and Safety Council. Yeah, give it to me. Here, was this it? I think this. Oh, this is just somebody. Stop it. This is just somebody molding. Okay, so episode 5 recap, right? That's what we're on. Okay. Episode 5 recap. A lot of what's the term? A lot of palace intrigue in terms of Twitter's decision to ban Trump. It seems like they made a decision that was not consistent with their rules because of extenuating circumstances in the US, and due to, I think, kind of honestly the immediacy of like Trump's ban, like because Twitter's based in the US, I think the kind of immediacy of any of his actions is what led a lot of Twitter employees to push heavier for his ban than, you know, leaders of other countries that they're quite frankly not in and they don't have that much experience with. But either way, episode 5 seems to be they made the decision based on an assessment of incitement of violence due to his tweets. I don't honestly. I'll be honest. I don't really get it. It like, okay, sure. I I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of I'm at a bit of a loss for words here on this one, mainly because overall, so far the Twitter files have kind of been a lot of not much. Episode 2 basically was we learned that accounts like Libs of TikTok get preferential treatment and get guarded from normal terms of service strikes. That's one. 2, that Twitter functions as a private corporation and isn't transparent with its users, which I can't say is really that shocking or scandalous. No shit. Episode 3 didn't really, honestly, episode 3, 4, and 5 have been kind of just complaining that Twitter isn't transparent, which again, they're a private institution. Yeah, so obviously we're gonna be, you know, awaiting with bated breath. I'm really hoping that episode 6 doesn't drop like now. But yeah, overall, I'd kind of say so far, not really too much to chew on. You know, these are large companies with a lot of employees who have a lot of opinions, and they're quite frankly determining what speech is safe, and they seem to just have a lot of bureaucracy in making that decision. And also, they have a lot of authoritarian control in terms of people like Jack Dorsey, Vijaya Gad, and people of that level getting to kind of swing the hammer as they see fit, which, again, they're a private platform. You really shouldn't be super shocked by that. Overall, I would agree with the suspension of Donald Trump as an action. I'm perfectly supportive of it. I don't really see a problem with it. And their work with the FBI and government agencies, yeah, they work with Fed boys, and I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, they work with Fed boys who are kind of tasked with keeping an eye on all internet activity. You know, at the end of the day, they're aware of what's happening on 4chan and watching it seep into Twitter and trying to catch that kind of rhetoric and that kind of propaganda as it's entering into Twitter. So that partnership kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, I guess we'll be waiting for episode 6. But either way, we're a little bit over, not too much though. I'm, about like 14 minutes though. So, tomorrow, 6:30, right at the same space. And then on Thursday, also 6:30. We're getting used to the new time. It's just going to be a bit, just moving things around a little bit just to fit everybody in the household schedule and stuff. But either way, that's going to be it for me tonight. Either way, you all have been a great audience. Oh yeah, right, before I did the sign off thing, if you enjoyed anything that you saw, I would really appreciate any kind of follow that you could throw my way. It really helps me to grow this channel and allows me to do this more as a full-time thing as opposed to just something I do while holding a full-time job. Full-time work. I work in a kitchen. I like that and all, but it's hard work. It's brutal work sometimes, and it beats up your body, and you don't get paid as well. And this, I get to, kind of do my own thing and deliver news and talk with people. So anyway, that's it for me. You've been a great audience. I've been reading a lot, and I will see you all tomorrow. Goodbye. I wonder if I should add the snow to the post stream? I probably should, right? I'll do that next time. Maybe, can I do it now? Wait, okay, hold on. I'm totally gonna do that now. This. Give me this. This? No, this. Yes. I don't really need to do this, but I feel like it. Yeah. All right, see you guys tomorrow.